Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner. A little bit hoarse from one of my best friend's weddings last night, but it is Sunday, August 11th, soon to be Monday, August 12th. And today's episode will be the La Liga, as I have a kit on if you're watching on video on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube. We're doing YouTube live for, I think, this foreseeable future for the season, potentially. So go follow at the real underscore G Warner there if you want to watch me while I'm doing this, I guess, without any sort of editing. Not that I do a ton of that anyway, but of course, plenty of podcasts will come out, usually a little bit afterwards, probably about within an hour, depending on how long the server takes. But today's episode is going to be a Spanish La Liga futures preview. So we're going to go through a bunch of numbers on all these teams, including introducing the newly promoteds, discussing what the story will be as Real Madrid are big favorites, and ultimately we'll come out with a best bet at the end of the show. There's already an English Premier League episode out, as I'm going to do the top 5 European soccer leagues as soon as possible. Probably will do a preview for Champions League as well down the stretch, but that is a little while from now. Plenty of other great content coming out on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. You can follow on Instagram at Betting the Pitch, or actually on Instagram it's at the real underscore G Warner. Same for YouTube. But follow Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you know exactly when episodes are out. You can watch it or listen to it on the way to work or with your family or however you do it. But that's enough publicity to get into it. I'm at the real underscore G Warner, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. And this is going to be a good episode. Great season. Looking forward to all of that. So I'm going to start with the newly promoteds, leave the top of the pile for later in the episode. And there will be a reel or YouTube short coming out with a minute for my best bet for a future on this league. Future's been good, kind to the podcast, kind of the group. I'm trying to keep that going moving forward as well. But okay, so let's get into it now. I'll start with one of the worst. Well, it's hard to say, like, coming into this league, what to expect from all these clubs. But Leganes is I think a Madrid area club, which doesn't say a lot, unfortunately. When I first started following La Liga, I was like, okay, if you're from Madrid, that means you have money. It's not exactly the case. I mean, I'm wearing a Getafe shirt right now, who are in the Madrid suburbs as well, and they're always fighting to stay in the league. But we'll expect the exact same sort of thing from Club Deportivo de Leganés, and they are worth a very, very low, paltry even, 30.5 million euros according to Transfer Market. That's a bad sign because you see, or Real Madrid are worth 1.36 billion euros right now. So pretty big divide between those two clubs. And I think that there will probably be, if Leganes can get a single point from any encounter with Real Madrid this season, they'll be very, very, very happy. In terms of Leganes, they've been around the La Liga for a while. I'll get you into a number on them as well. I've been tracking the movement on the odds to win La Liga. I also have odds to win the La Liga, I guess, title without Barcelona and Real Madrid. Subtract them out. To be relegated numbers, which is probably most relevant to Leganes, and top 4 finish. And I will read out whatever seems to be relevant. So Las Palmas are actually the favorite to be relegated, which is big surprise considering how well they performed last season, though second half is not great. We'll get to them later. But Leganes, they are second most likely to be relegated, plus 135 at BetOnline, quoting lines courtesy of BetOnline. Probably this entire season. If you do not have an account there, I would suggest getting one. They're giving away free money. Go take that, and you can find links in the podcast descriptions on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube to go follow that and get your free cash. In terms of what Leganes have done coming into this season, in terms of their transfer market, it looks like they have Borja Jimenez, their manager, who's appointed in July of 2023. So he's still around. So having some continuity after being promoted from the La Segunda, the second division, was a big deal. We'll see how that turns or what that turns into. In terms of what they've brought in this season, doesn't look like a lot. They got a free transfer in Valentin Rozier from Besiktas in Turkey. I've seen that name around. Miguel de la Fuente, central forward coming in from Deportivo Alaves. Roberto Lopez, free transfer from Real Sociedad. Juan Cruz, $1 million winger from Real Betis. Juan Soriano, a free transfer from, I believe that's Tenerife. Yes, Tenerife. And who have they lost? Diego Conde, a goalkeeper to Villarreal. Jorge Miramon, an older player, is going to AK Athens. Not a surprise because they seem to grab everyone with a big name, or AK Larnaca, excuse me. Um, then some other names I haven't really heard before. So not a lot of movement has been there. I think we'll probably see a very similar squad from last season. Leganes finishing second place, so they were automatically promoted, didn't have to go through the playoffs. That's a good sign, but I would expect them to be very defensive and will try to do everything they can not to get relegated, sent right back to La Segunda División. Next on the list, and a club that I've followed fairly closely, I think, and maybe one of the teams I like the most of the potential like yo-yo clubs that go up and go down is Real Valladolid. Their manager, very famous Ronaldo from Brazil, one not Cristiano version from Portugal, but the one with like the half haircut from way back when. I think he was trying to get investors, so I don't know if he's actually liquidated his position in the club, but I think he still owns it. So we'll go there. Paulo Pezzolano is the manager appointed in April of 2023. So some continuity there is important. And I think that's a really, really big deal for moving forward for any sort of club. Real Valladolid are at 42 million euros, essentially a little bit less than that. So better than Leganes in terms of what they're valued, but still very low. 15 million euros below the next club that we'll get to in just a moment. But pretty much all the promoted sides have big questions. Valladolid are plus 165 to be relegated, which is especially interesting as that is equal to the kit I'm wearing, Getafe, who basically just stay in the league for fun. I'm kind of surprised, but that does show there's some belief in Valladolid, though they've been and should have stayed up a few seasons ago, if not for really poor goalkeeping errors. In terms of what they've done with their club, Monchu, a central midfielder, he has left for 3.6 million euros to Thessaloniki, a club in Greece, but not to Aris Thessaloniki, so not even the main one. Sergio Escudero has gone to Deportivo de La Coruña. Free transfer. Jordi Masip, who was the big mistake maker that pretty much lost Valladolid a place, I think, a couple seasons ago. He's gone, not with a new club yet, and Alvaro Negredo, who'd been on loan everywhere, is not with the team either. So not really huge losses, I don't think, but center midfielder, probably the most important thing, starter in their last matchup. But they were winners. Real Valladolid were, and I do feel like champions of Segunda Divisions or second divisions or whatever they are, promoted sides that win the league to move up to the top tier, I think are generally ones I want to back or look to because they were the best in a very competitive area. And I think we can see some potentially good performances from Real Valladolid this season. In terms of what they've done, they've spent a little bit of money, spent 14 million euros, only sold 3.6. So not huge money, but considering how, I guess, low likelihood or whatever, this team's just trying to stay in the league and trying not to spend too much and give out too much money in future contracts, which you pretty much have to do with transfers. But in terms of what they brought in, Stipe Biuk from LAFC for 4 million euros. Ere Comert, center back who is on loan from Valencia to Real Valladolid. He has come in. Victor Meseguer, 3 million euro from Granada. Don't know him. Raul Muro from Lazio, 2.5 million. And Stanko Juric, defensive midfielder, in from Parma. In the Serie A now, as they were just promoted this season. So some movement. We'll see where those players fill in. In the past, I mean, Valladolid were a very great defensive side who had Cadiz's manager was there. So I think Cadiz were relegated last season. So it's probably available, but it's kind of been an open door and seeing where teams rotate. I see they've grabbed Amath Ndiaye from Mallorca. A lot of talent, but we haven't seen much from him and certainly not a consistency. Mamadou Sila, know that name. He's been around the league for a while too. Darwin Machis has come back from his loan at Cadiz back to Real Valladolid. That's a big deal. If he can stay healthy, it's important. So speedy Venezuelan on the wing, Lavino Tinto. But I'm not really sure kind of what to expect from Valladolid. I mean, they were winners in the league last season. I probably will doubt they play as defensively as they have in the past. They got a big time center back in Turkish Eric Comert, who might play for Switzerland. I'm not sure of his international decision, but Those things will help. Andre Ferreira, goalkeeper from Granada, is in. And I would expect them to potentially have a shot. And clearly, the market likes them as they are tied for third, most likely to be relegated. So that gives them a shot coming into the season. We'll move next to Espanyol, the little, I guess, club just in that shadow of FC Barcelona in Catalonia. Um, they were the playoff winners. I think it was expected. They'd spent a lot of money on their team, but didn't win or get an automatic promotion. That was a big deal, and there's a lot of drama about that in like the Spanish coverage of every match that was going on in these playoffs. But they got through. Had played a very aggressive style. Had went through a bunch of managers over the season, including bringing in, I think, a youth coach who had previously been like driving a bus for a living. I mean, I don't know if that speaks to the economy in Spain, unfortunately, but Manolo Gonzalez was appointed in March of 2024, stuck around, got his team promoted. So you'd expect that. I would imagine there might be some quick transfer or potential movement if things don't start well, but we'll see. In terms of expenditures, they've only spent 400,000 on transfers and have sold assets worth 1.5 million euros. So that's wild. Their departures, so who they've lost. Jose Lu has been was lost to Real Madrid last season. Nico Melamed has moved to Almeria on a free transfer, which is surprising because Almeria went down. Martin Braithwaite has left for an Italian club, and he was important, starting for them a lot. Katie Barre, free transfer from their midfield. Oscar Heel, who had so much and the highest expectations of like anyone, but a lot of free transfers there, a lot of things that haven't really moved. In terms of what they've brought in, Alex Kral is I think someone you'd know if you watch the German Bundesliga, transferred on loan at least from Union Berlin. Even Irvin Cardona from Augsburg, 400,000 euros. That's where they paid. Alejo Veliz, a center forward from Tottenham, who I have not seen or heard before. Alvaro Tejero and Carlos Romero. A lot of names that I don't really know very well, I will admit. But if you look at their starting lineup, so from the playoff final, their last match, they won 2-0 over Oviedo to clinch their position. They were basically playing a 4-4-2, maybe a 4-2-3-1 with Perry Mia, basically a forward or attacking player as their left back. I imagine they're probably not going to try to do that in La Liga. But pretty much, so Katie Barre, who's a midfielder for them, started in their last match that was of the utmost importance to get promoted. Barre's gone in midfield, Melamed on the right wing, and also Braithwaite, a starting striker. So 3 of those players from their starting lineup are gone. We'll see what that ends up doing and how long it takes a team like Espanyol to take this season. Espanyol plus 250 to be relegated. That is good for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th most likely in La Liga. So that's saying something. I don't think that we're close enough to thinking that they would be a potential dark horse, though we did see, of course, Girona perform really, really well last season. Top 4 finish for Espanyol, currently paying 33 to 1, so wouldn't expect much there. But I'm very interested to see how they approach this season because they spent a lot of money in their project and all these players walked. So I imagine there might be money there, but we haven't seen it spent yet. And who knows what's going to happen with interest rates as high as they are. Thank you, Jerome Powell. I'll next move to Rayo Vallecano. They are honestly, they'd played so well at home over the years. They're worth about 60 million euros. Espanyol, who just discussed, were 57 million euros, which is about 15 and 18 or so million bigger than Real Valladolid. So we're kind of climbing up the pay scale and the value of the clubs. But Rayo Vallecano were a really great home team for a while, but I thought were very disappointing last year. They did bring in an Andoni Iraola disciple who had left, but came in after they were really performing poorly during the season. Iraola left for Bournemouth, and it was an awesome manager, and I think will be eventually at Athletic Club Bilbao at some point, former player there. But Inigo Perez came in February 14th and has a contract through this season. We'll see what happens with them. They haven't really done a ton of work financially, but Stole Dimitrievski has left. Their goalkeeper basically played and started all the time. He's gone to Valencia. Andres Martin sold for 2 million euros to a logo I don't know. to Racing Santander. Jose Pozo is gone. Radamel Falcao is gone, but I mean, he was barely playing, so I think that makes sense. In terms of what they've brought in, Gerard Gumbau is definitely a multiple relegation sufferer in La Liga. He's came in from Granada, formerly of Elche. Pedro Diaz, a free transfer from Bordeaux. Adrian Embarba is on loan from Almeria, who went down, and Pelayo Fernandez, a center back, has transferred in from Barcelona. Not a lot there. Doesn't look like they've spent any money. Gumbau is a decent player, defensive midfielder listed on transfer market, but ultimately has some creativity in him. And Barba, 32 years old, probably going to be in there for guidance, leadership, things of that nature. What I would expect is Inigo Perez to play the same way his, I guess, when he was the apprentice to Andoni Iraola, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, there's still a lot of names that we know. They've never really been that impressive. Have Rayo Vallecano. They also play on a really small pitch in a weird part of town that seems to really unite them. We'll see how that goes. But there's some questions about goalkeeper, of course. Every time I see Ardane Hernandez playing, he's getting toasted. Now 35 years old. I hope he doesn't play much, and I'm sure they don't either. It seems to me, I mean, Dani Cardenas is a good goalkeeper from Levante from a few seasons ago, but hasn't really played and gotten that starting kind of that starting spot. It looks like Florian Lejeune is back from his loan last season to Alaves. We'll see how that goes. But there's a lot of names here, but I think that there's a good chance that we see Rayo Vallecano fighting near the bottom to be relegated. They're currently 2-1 odds to be relegated. That is fifth most in La Liga. And I'll move on to the next possibility here, and that is the kit I'm wearing. Getafe's Club de Football. They are plus 165, tied for third most likely to be relegated from La Liga, which is saying something because they had a pretty good finish last season. Defense is really kind of their pride and joy, their blood. It's what they do. They finished 12th last year, very safe from a long time ago. Jose Bordalas, or Pep Bordalas, manager, 60 years old, looks like he's 40, but he's a really brutal guy, or plays a brutal game, and that works in La Liga. Very low scoring league. I expect some of that same sort of thing to stick around. Especially surprised about the relegation number, because they've spent 18.5 million euros, and that tells me his team is buying compared to these other teams that are in the relegation picture that have literally not spent a cent so far, according to Transfer Market. They did excuse me, they sold for 18.5 million euros. Let me correct that. They bought 7 million euros, though, which is still way more than anyone else. Most of that big income came from Enes Ünal being sold to Bournemouth, though he was already gone and had been injured a lot over the years. Others, we saw Nemanja Maksimovic, longtime center midfielder. He's gone. Choco Lozano gone. Jaime Mata gone, who's been around for a while as a big leader for them, but definitely was older and was kind of playing out of position, but doing stuff for the squad, and honestly did a fairly good job, I think. In terms of arrivals, Alex Sola has come over from Real Sociedad. Peter Federico from Real Madrid, though he was playing last year at Valencia. Carlos Perez from Celta de Vigo. Yuri Latasek, 22 million euro purchase from as a goalkeeper from some logo from Banek Ostrava. I don't know that. And Diego Rico, left back, who'd been around Getafe before. I guess technically was a Sociedad player on loan, I guess. But so there's been some money spent. We'll see what Peter offers in the midfield, most likely. And they're going to really miss Mason Greenwood, who left for Olympique Marseille after his loan from Manchester United left or expired. Mata started the last game at center forward, though I'm not sure he was playing that a ton this past season. We'll see. Good questions about where goals will come from for Getafe, but I trust them to defend. Pepe Bordalas is an awesome manager, has proven himself to me, I think. So to me, I feel like there's a very low expectation for Getafe, which might mean I'll be backing them a fair amount this season. Don't know they have enough goals to see them kind of climbing the top half of the table. Certainly don't expect a top four finish, but I don't think they'll be in as, I guess, the same type of relegation danger as a lot of the marketplace does right now. We'll move next to Deportivo Alaves, Basque team in the north part of the country, worth 75.1 million euros, just 2 million more than the 73 million Getafe are worth, according to Transfer Market. In terms of relegation odds, they're not really even listed. Plus 325, and they're usually a team that fights relegation. So we'll see how that goes. They are 1, 2, 3, eighth most likely to be relegated according to Bet Online odds. If you're not a member there, go sign up. There's links in the podcast descriptions. Luis Garcia is sticking around. He did a great job managing last year. They were safe very early and had some really great results, especially at home. In terms of they've sold 12.5 million euros worth of players, bought 5.5 million. So they are on the right side of the money transfers, it seems. Javi Lopez is who they sold left back to Real Sociedad for 6.5 million euros. In terms of other players, Ruben Duarte for 4 million. He's gone to Pumas in Mexico. Interesting. Milo de la Fuente has gone to Leganés, we've already mentioned, and then who have come in. So Luca Romero on loan from Milan. He was at Almeria last season, second half, and showed some ability to attack. Manu Sanchez has come in, formerly of Osasuna, and looks like Celta de Vigo on loan. Tomas Konechny is coming in from Club Deportivo Godoy Cruz Antonio Tomba. That feels like a South American club because I've never heard it before. It's a lot. Stoichkov is in from Eibar, who I think lost in the playoffs for a second straight year, and Asier Villalibre, the Buffalo, who basically has left from Athletic Club Bilbao and honestly put Alaves in incredible fashion late in a match in the playoff, get into this position, and then Alaves took advantage of it, played very, very well last season, finished 10th in the league. Awesome run for them. I think I see nothing but improvement from them. The odds seem to like them as well. Value of the club has gone up in terms of their squad value. And honestly, I feel like their goalkeeper was good last season. They've got two of them that seem decent. Big question is probably their defense, but they've got some creators, and I like what we've seen from them. And I feel like Alaves are a team I want to back again a lot this season. It does feel like 3.25 to 1 plus 325 to be relegated seems high just based on the story of the club. But, I think it probably makes sense, and I think they deserve it. And we'll move next to Real Club Deportivo de Mallorca, which is an interesting situation considering they let Javier Aguirre go, who basically played we're going to play a 5-4-1 and squeeze every match out. They start with Real Madrid. That's going to be a tough way to go. But in comes Yagoba Arrasate from Osasuna. And we'll see what he does because he was a brilliant manager in the past and did very well for Osasuna. We'll see how that goes with a club that was built in a certain direction. They've certainly got some American investment. So we'll see how that all goes. In terms of relegation odds, Mallorca are 4 to 1 odds, so even further away. In terms of potentially doing some damage and finishing in a top 4 position, that'd be a huge belief in Yagoba Arrasate, but who honestly had a really poor season, especially poor close to last year for Osasuna. But Mallorca are 25 to 1 odds to finish top 4. I think I see that happening. However, in terms of what they've done in the offseason, they've sold 10 million euros and only spent 1.5. That's not a great sign. Predrag Rajkovic, their great goalkeeper, he is gone and he is left to Al Ittihad. So taking the money there. Disappointing because Rajkovic was very good, followed his career a lot in Ligue 1. Idrisu Baba gone to Almeria on a free transfer. Amat Andaye, who we mentioned, Valladolid. Nastasic just didn't play much, and Jaume Costa is gone, and that could be something. In terms of what they've brought in, Takuma Asano from VfL Bochum in the German Bundesliga, good player, right wing, a lot of pace on the perimeter. Also in is Johan Mojica, who did very well in Copa America for Colombia this summer. United States. He is coming in officially from Villarreal, but played at a lot of different places for 1.5 million euros. Feels pretty cheap, and he's definitely an offensive creator, not going to defend too much. But we'll see what Arrasate is going to play. I imagine the same style he did at Osasuna, but starts out probably a little bit more conservative defensively, as that's what Aguirre had really installed in that team for years and years and years, and almost won the Copa del Rey, made it to the final last season. Another name you'd know, Mathieu Morey, coming in from Borussia Dortmund, but no real expectation. He's been unable to stay healthy his whole career. There's a lot of depth in the attack with Marici, Larian, the Canadian, and Abdon Prats, fan favorite, the big mustache, El Bigote. Asano coming in is important, and it seems like a lot of this crew and the core has stuck around. So I like their chances. I mean, really tough to open against Real Madrid, big favorites, and we'll see about their goalkeeper position. Dominic Grief was really good in the run to the Copa del Rey final last season. Looks like it's going to be his job, I would suspect, for this season, and we'll see if he can keep and hold on to it. Moving next to Celta de Vigo, they're worth about 88.5 million euros. 11 more than Mallorca, and they're 9-1 odds to finish, excuse me, to be relegated, which is saying something because they're usually flirting with that not that unwanted record, to say the least. But when I look at Celta de Vigo, they are managed by Claudio Giraldez, who I think came in late in last season, March 12th, and they had to barely survive. I think I want to say 16th position, 14th. I guess they climbed up a little bit down towards the end of the stretch. They've had a lot of movement in their club, but only had 3 million euros in income and spent 7 million. So they spent 4 million euros more than they returned. So that's interesting. It does say something good. We saw Jorgen Strand Larsen leave on a $3 million loan fee to Wolverhampton Wanderers in the English Premier League. That's a big loss for them as they were pretty much training him and developing a really good big center forward, which honestly can control things in Spain where they don't seem to have the biggest size. Manu Sanchez has gone on loan to Alaves, as we already mentioned. Renato Tapia probably back in South America. Carlos Perez already gone, but not huge losses. Tapia was really injured for most of the season. Strand Larsen is the big deal, and it's unfortunate they lost him. But I'm sure he has higher plans. In terms of what they've brought in, Unai Nunez, center back from Athletic Club Bilbao, I think was on loan last season, 7 million euros. He's officially a Celta de Vigo player. Borja Iglesias in on loan after really just being kicked out of any team he was in last year. Didn't play much for Real Betis. Kind of lost his starting job and then didn't do anything, but did win some trophies and drink some beer apparently for Bayer Leverkusen. They also brought in Ilaix Moriba, which is a pretty big deal. Loan transfer from Red Bull Leipzig. We'll see. His career was at Barcelona, played for Valencia, played for some of the biggest names out there, just hasn't really turned into anything yet. But there's a lot of talent there. We'll see what that ends up turning into. Big question for me is how they're going to score goals. Iago Aspas, now 37 years old, club captain, legend I think they're on the Portuguese border of Spain, northwest, I believe. We'll see what happens because Strand Larsen's a big loss. Gonzalo Paciencia's in, but he's older, wasn't really doing too much, I don't think. Was on loan at Bochum last year. A lot of Germans or German league players moving from the Bundesliga in Germany to Spain, it seems. But there's some good players in this team. It's good talent. It's never really been a great defense. They've really struggled with that over the years. In terms of 9-1 odds to get relegated because they're always playing around that kind of cut line. That's very interesting to me. It's a long shot for sure, but I would not. I mean, I believe it very possible, and we'll see what happens if this manager who kind of kept them up, if he even deserves or stayed in that post for a long time. I'll bet he probably does not finish the season. Move next to Las Palmas. They're worth 100 million euros. Had an incredible first half of the season and then finished horribly, and things did not go great. They survived somehow. One of their most famous players getting a big fight with a manager. In comes July 1st, Luis Miguel Carrion. So that is a new manager coming in, and probably for good reason. Though I gotta say, Pimienta was awesome last season and did an incredible job of basically playing Barcelona style without the talent, but it worked. Now the big question is how they're going to do that this season. New manager comes in. They've sold 3.5 million euros more than they brought in. Not a lot of movement there. But in terms of what they've lost, Sal Coco, center back, he's gone to Torino in Serie A in Italy. Sergio Cardona also gone to Villarreal. Munir, not a big deal. Escandel, a goalkeeper, Corbello, don't really know that name very well. In terms of what they've brought in, though, Scott McKenna, who was on loan everywhere, it seemed, from Nottingham Forest last year. That should help them, though I don't really know how well English Premier League players transition in defense to Spain, honestly. Ollie McBurney coming in a free transfer as well. Basically just pick up any sort of Premier League players you can. He scored some goals for Sheffield United in a bad team that it was last year, but I guess it wasn't really it was the defense that was so bad. Other players, Marvin Park, 2 million euro purchase from Real Madrid. He was there last season, was really good. Zanujai of Sevilla, formerly of Real Sociedad, on a loan transfer, and Manu Fuster, don't know that name, €1.5 million expenditure on the left wing. So they've done some building of the squad. Honestly, what I took away from Las Palmas, I was pretty much betting them and under for the entire first half of the season, and until it started to really go downhill, then eventually started betting against them a lot. They were a really great underdog, and I expect that same sort of thing to be the case if their manager was around. But since that's changed, I'm very curious to see what they look like. And honestly, I feel like it doesn't make sense to me that they're the favorites to be relegated of the entire league. Yes, 3 teams go down automatically, but it does seem kind of wild to me that a squad worth 100 million euros, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth team that we've talked about on this podcast. There might be some value on Las Palmas, though you certainly would be bucking the trend of how bad and how poor they were to the end of last season. In terms of top half finish, I don't know if I would believe that because they had a really, really bad run, and who knows about this new manager. They ended up finishing 15th, which is hilarious because they were way off the table a long time this last season. But in terms of, I guess there's no top half finish, and I'm not going to take them to finish top 4. So I guess it's just don't expect them to get relegated is where we're at. We'll move next to Osasuna, Club Atletico Osasuna in Pamplona, where they run the running of the Bulls. They are currently plus 275 to be relegated, seventh worst or seventh highest chance to be relegated is probably the way I should say it. They start with Leganés at home, where they play very, very well in Pamplona at El Sadar. That's a great situation. But they're replacing this manager who basically built them into what they are. And that's going to be a big deal. And the team went to hell when he left, or when was really even announcing that he was not going to resign. In comes Vicente Moreno, who I've seen manage a bunch of clubs across Spain, usually getting sacked within a few weeks, it seemed. I don't love that appointment, I'll say, and it's really going to test how strong Osasuna can be in front of their home crowd. They've sold more than they've bought to nearly 6 million euros. Rinse, wash, repeat. David Garcia has left as a center back. He's now in Saudi Arabia. Got nearly 9 million euros, probably important. But in terms of what they've brought in, Brian Zaragoza, who left Granada last season mid-year to go not even play at Bayern Munchen after they were panicking mid-year. That was bizarre. But for only 250,000, that's a deal. And he can certainly show some ability. Would like to see what he does in a bigger club with more talent around him. Abel Bretones has come in also from Oviedo, who nearly got promoted. And that's going to be interesting. We'll see what, I mean, 2.8 million euros is pretty expensive for a left back. Especially for how little money Osasuna sometimes seem to have. But we'll see what happens there. Ante Budimir is going to stay up top and probably be the target man, though 33 years old. Croatian does seem to be a little bit aged. We'll see with Zaragoza what he can create. 22 years old, worth 12 million euros. And that team's pretty well with Aymar Rose, who played, I think, in the Olympics for Spain. There's plenty of talent here. Luis Toro, actually, he's 30 years old now, so he's not as young as I was hoping. But losing a pretty important center back, David Garcia, I think he was their captain, if I'm not mistaken. Still have Unai Garcia as the Garcia tandem back there in center back were interesting. Sergio Herrera and Aitor Fernandez will probably rotate, but I'm curious to see who the manager picks to start. I think this is a team that, like most soccer clubs, I guess, they play well at home. Osasuna is no different, and I want to see the drop off when Arrasate is officially nowhere near the top and has moved on to another team within the league, moving to Mallorca. Move next to Real Betis Balompié. They are worth 50 million euros more than Osasuna and Las Palmas at 153.7 million euros. I'm kind of surprised to see them this low, but honestly, a lot of the clubs above them it makes sense that they're really talented and they're worth a lot of money and have a lot of players that are valuable. Betis, one of the most followed clubs across Spain for past success, still have Manuel Pellegrini managing them at 70 years old. His contract expires in 2026, so maybe he'll be there till 72. I hope so. They've spent a lot of money. They've sold a lot, brought in 31.7 million euros, sold 22. So that's something. We'll see what that ends up turning into, but I'm looking forward to it. By the way, any live viewers, if you want to throw a comment in here, you can. I've opened it up. So if you want to throw something in there, go ahead. We're now 35 minutes in already, and I'm still having fun. Hopefully you all are too. But uh, when I look at this squad, Real Betis, I mean, there are high expectations for the club. They have great home support. I mean, say it about everyone. They lost Guido Rodriguez at a free transfer to West Ham, but he was aging, had done a lot, won the World Cup with Argentina. Chadi Riyad does seem to be like a loss for them, 50 million euros center back sold to Crystal Palace. That's probably a good buy by Oliver Glasner and company. Juan Miranda has left for Bologna on a free transfer. He never was really that good, except for taking red cards. Abner gone to Lyon. That's kind of an issue. Left back, but seemed very, very versatile. Willian Jose has gone to I think Spartak Moscow in Russia. They paid a fair amount, so they brought in some money. They, I guess, well, Chadi Riyad, they, I guess, officially made a transfer from Barcelona and then sold him off. 6 million euro profit there. Good for them. Marc Roca coming in, former Spanish midfield of the future. That hasn't really turned into anything. Another Leeds purchase with Diego Llorente, center back. Romain Perraud coming in from Southampton is an interesting move. And also Ricardo Rodriguez, free transfer from Torino with his success playing left of the three center backs for Switzerland. So that, I mean, team looks good. They've certainly sold off some talent. I think Abner for sure, Riyad definitely in center back, but bringing in Llorente, who's been proven in some places and has a Spanish background, I think that helps. We'll see what Chimi Avila can do. I guess he fell out with Osasuna. Probably couldn't handle his maybe just being a psycho. Didn't work great, but we'll see. Really, to me, the Betis side just doesn't really ever live up to the expectations. However, Ayoze Perez, who came in from Leicester City, was really good last year and looked like maybe an English level was a little bit too rough for him. Played very well in Spain, though they're certainly not gentle either. Big question is the health of Isco, broken leg, expected to return on August 17th. That should be the opening match day. So if he's back, also to be Fekir, one of the best talents who's been recovering from ACL surgeries. So there's a lot of talent on this team. We'll see if it can be woken up. I do like the manager and Pellegrini, and I feel like there's a good chance that Betis potentially on maybe lower expectations can do better. 25-1 odds to be relegated. I think they are probably a team that fights for a potential European position. Champions League is probably too far out of it, and that's what the top four finish I think would be asking. Currently 4-1 odds to finish in a Champions League spot or top four finish, and I feel like that's probably too far for them, but they don't have the same commitments continental wise or in that sort of way. So that does help them a lot. And I do believe in their manager. Hopefully he sticks around for a lot longer. Move next to Villarreal, who smaller club, plus 750 to finish top four. So outside of Real Betis, and they're worth, looks like 25 million euros more than Real Betis, according to Transfer Market. So that's saying something. To be relegated, it is a long 10-1 odds. That's pretty long. And the big question is the Villarreal incredible Champions League position because they won the Europa League with Unai Emery. He left, team went to hell. Marcelino came in, kind of changed them around and made a good offense, bad defense team into better, more solid defensive shape. And then we'll see what that turns into with their attack and how that kind of trade-off goes. Alexander Soloth has been sold for 32 million euros to Atletico Madrid. Philip Jorgensen, their goalkeeper, to Chelsea because they needed an eighth goalkeeper on their roster. Bertrand Traoré has gone to Ajax, but he was kind of in and out. Brereton Diaz to Southampton. Jorge Cuenca, probably the most important sale that I've came across besides Sorloth. And I guess Jorgensen, their goalkeeper, and the money certainly makes sense. But Cuenca for less than 7 million euros to Fulham does seem to be a big deal. They brought in a lot of money, 74.5 million euros, only spent 14. Gave Manchester United 10 million for Willy Kombuala, which it was certainly a younger player that was playing a lot, it seemed to me, for Manchester United. Nicola Pepe has come in from Trabzonspor and every other move ever since Arsenal. Pape Gay from Olympique de Marseille. And Sergio Cardona, who we already mentioned, from Las Palmas, and then Diego Conde, goalkeeper from Leganes, who just recently got promoted. Looks like that's their goalkeeper for now. It's Diego Conde. We'll see. 25 million or 25 years old, worth 2 million euros. Um, probably all still there, 38 years old, soon to be 39. Eric Bailly, Cote d'Ivoire, formerly of Manchester United. I mean, there's some big names here. I don't really know what the defense looks like. It looks like they're going to have to make some signings for sure. Alex Baena, very important, 40 million euros in value. We'll wait to see if he moves. But there's a lot of talent in this team. There always has been. Gerard Moreno, if he can stay healthy, 32 years old, still worth 10 million euros, though. If he's healthy, this team can play well. I don't know necessarily how high they can go, but to be worth more in squad value and be nearly double the likelihood of Real Betis to finish in the top 4 position, that does seem of some interest to me, I gotta say. We'll move now to who's next on the list? Let's get up to Girona, which is going to be an interesting one to talk about because they are worth nearly 180 million euros, but they are going to have to balance Champions League after an incredible performance, like really, really long shots. We're leading La Liga for a lot of the season, or at least we're in the running. Great performance by them, getting third place, kind of, I guess, petered out a little bit down the stretch, but a nice 7-0 thrashing of Granada in their last match day to finish third. Good for them. But they've sold 51.5 million euros. They bought 21 million, so that's a pretty big gap. Dovbyk is gone, center forward to Roma. Alex Garcia, midfielder to Bayer Leverkusen. Pau Victor to Barcelona. Gabri Martinez, a free transfer. Don't know who that is really. And he left for Braga in Portugal. And Alexander Collins, I don't even know why he's on this list. But in terms of what they've brought in, Brian Heel, definitely horrible hair, but I guess he's just trying to look like a boy his whole life. Great left winger and didn't play much at Tottenham. And so there's probably a lot of motivation from him. Abel Ruiz, who is a starting center forward for Sport Club Braga as well. He's come in for 9 million. Ladislav Krejci, a center back from Sparta Prague, I believe. Donny van de Beek coming in from Manchester United. I mean, they are trying to build something here, and it's worked very well. They're part of the City Football Group. I would believe in them before I wouldn't. And honestly, seeing Sigankov still on the roster, a Ukrainian and great creator, is still very important. He's got an injury flag, but should be coming back potentially. And this team, I mean, they were awesome. We'll see how Michel handles Champions League. And he's going to be very aggressive. That's how they play. They don't change that against anyone, and it's worked against really good teams. So maybe that turns into something. I do like what they've been able to keep, and seeing Romeu coming back from Barcelona is important as well. I think there's something to see here. Good talent. Just how they're going to balance the Champions League commitments. They are plus 185 to finish top 4. I feel like the talent's there, but that's going to be really hard to sell me on. I don't think I'm very interested in that. It could be a little sneaky relegation thing. Honestly, they probably have too much money, and if things were really graphic or gross, they could spend some money in there. But that's a big question, a big shout. 21 odds to get relegated, probably not even close to worth that. But something that's out there possible. And we'll move next to Sevilla, worth only 6 million euros more, 185.6 million euros. And I mean, a team that really had high expectations and a lot of fanfare for a team that was horrible the year before, really bad last year. But they did bring in Garcia Pimienta from Las Palmas. And so he's going to probably want to play that same possession style that Barcelona has so much success with. Can he do it with Sevilla? Because that was some of the best Julian Lopetegui teams were defending and possessing the ball, getting crosses in the box from their wings, scoring goals. It's a different way, probably fewer attempts at scoring inside, and we'll see kind of what Sevilla have done because they haven't been anywhere near as active as everyone else. At least the fees have been low. They did sell Youssef En-Nesyri, their goalkeeper, or excuse me, their goal scorer, center forward. He has moved on to Turkey for almost 20 million euros. That's a big deal to Fenerbahce. Oliver Torres gone, Ludwig Augustinsson gone, and then Sergio Ramos doesn't look like he's coming back to his boyhood club. They brought in Sami Lokonga on loan from Arsenal, Kelechi Iheanacho, free transfer from Leicester City, Saul from Atletico Madrid, Ejuke from somewhere in Russia. CSK Moscow, I believe, and Lucien Agume as the defensive midfielder. They've spent 4 million euros on from Inter. I mean, some big names they've brought in. Certainly going to feel like what happens to their goals when they don't have Enesiri in there. He was inconsistent, but it was a great finisher. We'll see what they do because I don't know that Iheanacho is really that trustworthy in a completely new league. Didn't really feel to me like he was a possession guy, but I mean, certainly has ability there, has shown it before, had some great goal scoring runs in the Premier League. So it seems like this team is kind of reducing their expectations based on not being a team that's been winning. They haven't won the Europa League in at least a few years now. Even that is certainly their competition. They are currently Sevilla 12 to 1 odds to finish in the top four. And I think that does speak to kind of who they are. But this is a great step up for Pimienta. He's got a much better side and a lot more money, a lot more capable, and probably won't run out of gas halfway through the season like Las Palmas did last year. And honestly, it seems like a promotion for him. Good for him. In terms to, I guess, finish top of the league without Barcelona and Real Madrid, we have Sevilla 33 to 1, further out than Celta Vigo, which does interest me in terms of relegation stuff. Sevilla 6 to 1 odds compared to Celta Vigo 9 to 1. That makes no sense to me. I'm not worried about Sevilla getting relegated, but they've been really bad the last few seasons and are switching things up. So maybe that's not a crazy thought to have after all. Moving next to Valencia. They are worth 70 million euros more than Sevilla. That's huge. And the expectations for Valencia are always high, but they've been really bad for a long time. And maybe this is the future. Looks bright. It seems like they have the right manager there in Ruben Baraja, but we'll see what this season is looking to be because they've done very little in the transfer market. We'll see if that comes up as we go. Rafa Mir in on loan from Sevilla and plenty of other places. Dani Gomez, big name from Levante, who looked like a big talent. Dimitriescu, I mentioned, coming in as a potential reserve goalkeeper, or maybe he'll win a starting job for Valencia, and certainly they would be expecting to sell Georgi Mamardashvili, but they're really waiting for, I guess, the clock to strike midnight and the big offers to come in because he's awesome. I hope he stays. If he does, then that is such a big deal for Valencia, but we'll see. In terms of what they are, I mean, Jose Gaia is hurt, their captain. He never is on the pitch, it feels. I feel like this is a young team that's been growing. I would expect them to perform well. I am interested more, certainly not looking to get them to get relegated. I think they're too strong, too well fortified with young talent. Top four finish, though. That does interest me quite a bit. They are 12 to 1 odds, which is a long shot. But I mean, that's interesting. It would take a lot of growth for this club in one season, but I think it's certainly possible. Next, we'll go to Athletic Club Bilbao. They are going to be, they're finally back in Europe. We're Copa del Rey champions, and somehow we're able to hold on to Nico Williams. That's a big deal. They are worth over 313 million euros. That's a lot to play very well at home, or at least big favorites at home, and have not been that great at winning games until last season. Ernesto Valverde is still there. I think he's been manager of Athletic Club multiple times. In terms of what they've done in business side, they've really not as much as you'd expect for a team that's emerging into Europe. They I guess, finished the sale of Unai Nunez, who's already on loan playing for Celta Vigo. Iker Muniain was announced moving along. The Buffalo, Asier Villalibre, I already mentioned. Vencedor, gone. Danny Garcia is now at Olympiacos in Greece, in Athens. So, Piraeus. Those are some losses, but like old players that had already been gone, not really a big deal. They did bring in Alvaro Jalo, a left winger from Braga. You must have some Basque training in him, but 15 million euros, pretty big expense there. Free transfer, Gorozabal coming in from Alaves, and that's really all they've done. A lot of building from within, and it's really important that they can keep those Williams brothers together. We'll see what ends up happening with Nico. Worth 70 million euros, and what he did in the Euros this summer, Euro 2024, that is, was incredible. If he's going to play anything like that this season, this team will be very good because they do have a defensive backbone, and they've found kind of ways to play better with their center backs who don't have the big names. But they do have an issue with Unai Simon, their goalkeeper, Spanish international, gone until December 1st, it looks like, with a wrist injury. Their backup, Aguirre Zabala, it was awesome as well. But he's got a back fracture and is not going to be back till the end of August. So they're probably playing some youth keepers to start the season. That is a concern, which might make them a little bit more conservative to protect them and maybe somewhere to go a little bit more under than usual, though you have to worry about the Williams brothers for sure. Moving next to Real Sociedad, who are worth over 130 million euros more than their Basque Derby rivals, Derby Vasco. It's very, I mean, and it's especially funny because Athletic Club really smacked around Sociedad. But Real Sociedad had an incredible season last year, won a Champions League group with Inter Milan in it, but just really kind of ran out of gas, got too injured, and didn't have enough of a squad. Imanol Alguacil's still there, great manager, has had a lot of success. They sold Robin Lenormand to Atletico Madrid for 35 million euros almost, and then spent that money on Luka Sucic from Red Bull Salzburg, also Sergio Gomez from Manchester City, and Javi Lopez from not the Braves, the Deportivo Alaves. And those signings all look pretty good. Alex Sola gone, Getafe for 1 million, seems like it's just a throwaway, but I love Aguafil. I think he has shown to struggle with some teams like Barcelona, notably. But at the Real Arena, awesome. My first ever European soccer match I watched there. Awesome. They have great signing. They've brought in some great players. We'll see what they get from Takefusa Kubo this season. I'm bullish on Sociedad all the time, and I feel like the incredible value that they have and have turned into in their squad will be useful at some point. And they just need to find a way to, instead of controlling games the whole time, to actually win them. That's probably the biggest question. In terms of a top four finish, Real Sociedad plus 185. So not impossible. They'll be playing in a lower competition, though. I'd rather, if you're playing in Europe, I'd rather you play in Champions League. Yes, you need to play your best players, but Europa League, you've always playing Thursday, Sunday. That's really tough with travel and such. And we saw it really knock out Real Sociedad when they were also in a run in the Copa del Rey as well. Just too many matches, not enough health, unfortunately, really kind of cut them down. Don't see any relegation fears. Don't really want to say them to win the league without Barcelona and Real Madrid. So I'll move next to Atletico Madrid, worth nearly 480 million euros, only about 35 million more than Real Sociedad, but 160 more than Atletico Bilbao. Atletico are, I mean, they're still going to have this Cholo style. I think they're going to play. Feels like there's a little bit of love for them so far, as I can prove that with talking about some of the money that's come in. So Atletico Madrid 9-1 odds to win Spanish La Liga with Barcelona and Real Madrid considered. That's climbed to 10-1 within the last day or so, but I'm sure as the season gets closer and closer, starting this week in only a couple days, that does matter. I recorded this again, no, I guess the wee hours of Monday, August 12th. Sociedad has also climbed from 25 to 28. Those are the only movement that I've tracked, but wouldn't let an 11% move on Atletico Madrid change your mind too much. Just might be a team that you can look for, and you might even get a better price before this all kicks off. They are the favorites to win La Liga without Barcelona and Real Madrid, minus 140. Not a huge surprise there. And I think top four finish, they are minus 250. So that's a pretty big number. We'll see what that ends up turning into, but I don't hate that idea for this team. But when I look at Atleti, just to I guess go over what transfers they've done, Simeone has spent 66.5 million euros and only sold 21.5 worth of assets. Hermoso has gone, it looks like. Alvaro Morata gone to Milan. Memphis Depay never really took off there. And then Kalar Soyuncu never really worked and just is not a good center back and probably wasn't ever going to work. The size looked good, but it wasn't enough. He's now gone off to Fenerbahce back in his home Turkey. Saul gone. So like not really losses that are that big of a concern. Morata, probably the most important, biggest name there, and actually value to them because he can score goals. He's always offside, but that's the game he plays. In terms of arrivals, Sorloth basically going to fill in for Morata. 19 million more euros though, and then Lenormand coming into play center back, very expensive, but played for Spain. Formerly, I think was French, but I spent so much time in the Basque Country that I guess they just uh, you're allowed to have a French name and be Spanish all of a sudden. And it worked to win the Euros, and he's going to be great. Though certainly, I think does have some limitation physically. Though I do think that Simeone will probably work that out and make that a lot better. Squad looks good. Sorlo will probably score a bunch of goals. We'll see the difference between him and Morata. They're different players. I think Sorloth is huge, but is really a great creator and has a great left foot. Griezmann, we'll see how great he can be at 33 years old, certainly aging. We'll see if Samuel Omorodion is out on loan somewhere else and what the saga with Joao Felix will be. But I think he's probably not going to play again for Atleti, and we'll see what happens there. But similar team, probably bigger expectations than the brand of football will allow for. But this team's always good. They played really well at home in stretches, and I think they have a good chance to potentially run after Barcelona, who are worth more than double. Barcelona at 948.5 million euros in squad value. Incredible. And really got nothing from it last year. We're horrible. But that's what happens when you're basically broke. I think we'll see what happens with Barcelona, but they're a team I want to be against as much as I can. I just am not a believer. Their whole situation with their coaching staff last year was weird, but Hansi Flick coming in, I mean, he's going to play probably a Bayern German style, and he's got the chops and was a very successful manager. I don't think his the performance of the German national team, I don't think was really his fault. I don't think Julian Nagelsmann did anything that different. I just think it was a really bad time for him. Unfortunately, the money thing's an issue, yet somehow Barcelona have spent 58 million euros more, and they've only sold 18. We'll see who gets registered and how that's going to go. But in terms of losses, Mark Gu to Chelsea, but he wasn't really that important or playing much. They did bring in Danny Olmo for 55 million euros from Leipzig. I don't know how they made that deal happen, but good for them. Pau Victor from Girona as well. That's probably going to be a little awkward when they play, but who cares? Anyone would, I'm sure, drop anything to play for Barcelona unless you played for Real Madrid. We'll see about the age of Robert Lewandowski at 35 years old. Lamine Yamal was so good for Spain, part of that kind of dual winger team that just really killed everyone. I don't know what we'll get from Gundogan at 33 years old now. And of course, there's always injured Pedri, Gavi, all these sort of things. So I'm still in a position where I'd like to be against Barcelona. I'm not really a believer in who they are. I'm curious to see what Hansi Flick does. Probably plays a very high line, and Barcelona always do that anyway with a big possession type scenario. We'll see if Ronald Araujo is even sticking around. Koundé played a lot for France in the Euros this summer. I think it's very interesting to see because it's kind of like a car accident on the other side of the street. You can't help but look at it. So I'm very intrigued to see what Barcelona do this year. And last but not least, we'll move to Real Madrid, who are pretty big favorites. So I'll get to that now. Real Madrid minus 225 to win La Liga. Barcelona plus 350. It seems like Atletico Madrid are closer to Barcelona than 10 to 1 odds would say, but I'm sure everyone blindly bets Barcelona to win the league every season, so that shouldn't change too much. Real Madrid worth 1.36 billion euros, as I already mentioned, but that's like 400 million more than Barca, their big rivals. That's kind of incredible. We'll see. I mean, Thibaut Courtois will be back and hopefully will be healthy this season, though Lunin filled in admirably last season. Carlo Ancelotti stuck around. He's awesome. In terms of income, they sold 13.5 million worth of assets and brought and spent 49 million euros, but got a free transfer to Kylian Mbappe, the best player in the world. So that's incredible. Endrick from Brazil, who's big for a lot of fanfare at Copa America, is there as well. Jose Lu, another center forward, like they are going to be so good and so hard. And honestly, I'm going to try my best not to bet against them because it's a really not a fun game to see them always score late in matches. We saw Toni Kroos retire. That does impact them in the central midfield. Rafa Marin has left, who was on loan out at Alaves last year. He's now at Napoli. Jose Lu is, I guess, moving to somewhere in the oil black gold land. and Nacho Fernandez already did the same. So there's some movement there. I can't poke any holes in Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti is awesome. The day like Arda Güler, who's just going to come off the bench and kill people's bets and kill under bets as well. Vinny Jr., I mean, worth 180 million euros, same as Kylian Mbappe. I guess that's the max available. Same with Bellingham. So like this team's so good. I don't know what to even say about it, but I don't see them losing the title this year, to say the least. And like I said, I'm going to try my best to stop spending money betting against them because it doesn't seem to really come back flowing into my direction unless usually, I guess if it does, it's because the market has already gotten there, has been betting their opponent significantly, and it's usually out of my range anyway. So that's my story with Real Madrid this season, and I think it's going to be a position where I'm going to try to have no position against them for a lot of this season. So that's La Liga. Just went through 20 teams in about 1 hour, almost on the nose, 17 more seconds. I'm the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be doing more of these episodes, one per week on the weekends soccer slate, and then of course during midweek as we go through. Anything that you all can come up with, hit me on Twitter at the real_G Warner or any sort of platform you can find me. And I'm happy to do more, do different, do whatever works for you. I'm trying to get this is, I think, the 4th year doing this podcast, basically ever since COVID. So I like what I've been doing. I think we've been doing well, and I'm glad that a lot of you have reached out and have left 5-star reviews in Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Those are huge for the search ranking, so I thank you for that. And if we get some more subscribers on YouTube, maybe I will find a way to do more of this or something in that nature. Plus, there's a lot of other great sports betting content coming out on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network across all these platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Baseball we'll be doing on Tuesday night this week with that A. Brooks Bets. He's been on a great run lately. Also have NFL podcast coming out and some others in the works as well. Of course, with my pregame.com work as well, coming out with a baseball podcast for the Major League Baseball Monday card that'll be recorded in just a few hours as I need to get sleep. But I think it's probably that time for an ultimate best bet to wrap this up and grade this futures episode out. I'd already gone through the English Premier League on the previous episode, gave you a best bet end of show there. So go check that out if you haven't already. I think there's a lot to potentially do here, and I'm really looking forward to another big season. And especially because it's a great soccer is an incredible sport where there are matches literally every day from what feels like August 16th, maybe in just a few days, all the way until May. So a lot of chances to make some money and certainly have a sweat if that's something you're into. So it's time for the ultimate best bets. So let me get into it right now. Thank you all for tuning in, and let's go run wild. Hey, this is real_G Warren on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet of betting the pitch, the La Liga Futures Preview Edition. I went through an hour on each team, well, an hour total, covering each of the 20 teams coming into the league. Went through the newly promoteds and talked about kind of European aspirations, expectations, transfer market during the summer. There'll still be a lot of moves probably coming out the rest of the season. But you can follow me on all platforms at the real_G Warner. Want to certainly plug my Patreon, patreon.com. So that's a real_G Warner, best spot to get all my plays across all sports that I'm playing, everything out there. And you can get it right when I do it. I send a notification out so you know when I'm locking something in, you get the same price. So go check that out, patreon.com. So that's a real_G Warner. But for my best bet for La Liga in Spain, you grade me on this whole season. I'm going to go Leganes to be relegated, plus 135. They are the lowest squad value. I don't see them doing a ton with this new berth. So expect them to go down to Segunda División. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for all tuning in. It's late night, 1 a.m. Perfect time to get up in just a few hours for the next podcast. But I love you all. Thanks for the support. Make sure you hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. All that sort of stuff is huge. And I will talk to you very, very soon. I almost said down the road, like my guy Munaf does, and we'll be doing it in just a few more hours.